So what are you doing?
Nothing.
Nothing? Why not?
Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of their associated organizations or Lifestyle Radio.
I want to talk about news, don't want the drama. From no pretentious media Madonna. I found me a great ganja mama. Cannabis and coffee with Tamarijuana.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Cannabis and Coffee with me, Tamarijuana. It's kind of a great day in the East Kootenays, and we've had some not so great news overnight. So this show I would like to dedicate to a friend that passed away in the evenings last night. His name is Dick, and sending love to his family. He fought a hard 8-month battle with cancer that he lost. So this show is dedicated to him, and our topic today is, ironically, cannabis and cancer. And my guest is an expert, pretty much. She's been in the industry for 2 decades or more. She's worked as a patient advocate. I can't say enough good about this woman. She is hardworking, dedicated, and a cannabis patient herself. I'd like to introduce you to Sita von Windheim. Good morning, Sita. How are you?
Good morning, Tamara. I'm very well, thank you. And you?
Oh, it's a day, right? And you kind of 1 foot forward every day, right?
Right.
I've asked most of my guests, as soon as I will ask you, is who, what, where, when, and why. So who are you and how did you get in the cannabis industry?
I am Sita von Windheim. I got into the cannabis industry in 1997 when I started the original Amsterdam Cafe and Hemporium on Cordova Street in Vancouver.
That's excellent.
I started, we offered a smoke environment. Only cannabis was allowed to be consumed. We didn't allow cigarettes or any other smokables. And of course, vaporizers weren't available back then. And we also sold seeds, which we brought in from Holland at the time. And of course, we purchased Canadian whenever we were able to.
And then you evolved into other things too, like that was your first aspect into it. So it was in 97,
that was
medically looking for medical at that time?
At that time, it was just starting with hemp, and there were people talking about medical. We had a hemp conference, I believe, in 98 or late 97. There was a hemp conference here with hemp flax from Holland and a whole bunch of hemp displays. And after the cafe, I started making medicine I got my own medical license, and I started advocating for patients with Michelle Rainey. And then I started making medicine for people that didn't know how. I'm an aromatherapist, so I'm used to working with oils and hot pans and things, and I started making medicine for people who couldn't make their own.
And how did that evolve into?
So now I still make medicine, mostly custom medicine for patients, with formulas that I've used over the last, over 10 years. And I have a small line of product that I've been working on, some topicals, sprays, gels, capsules, and things like that for patients. That's what I'm doing now with Cannabis.
And it's evolved, though, like completely from 97 till we're now in 2019. So, I mean, how have you seen the evolvement of the program? Because, I mean, you've been there from, like, ground zero. You were at the Supreme Court rulings with Owen Smith, too. You've been involved for so many years, Sita. How do you see this? How has it evolved for you?
Well, I was really happy about the whole situation until I read that somebody got 10 months in jail for 85 grams today.
This morning. I know, I seen that
This
too.
morning. And, you know, legalization, this is not legalization. This is corporate takeover of an industry that was built over, you know, years and years and years by people who were dedicated to helping people with medicine. Yeah, they were making money, but you got to make money to survive, right? And
we have to make money to make product too. Yeah, I can't just give it away and not have anything back to redo it. Like, I think that's one thing.
Well,
yeah, you have to have money to
you
keep
have
making
to make
product.
Yeah, you can't have. Some people have two jobs and they go to a job and then they come home and make medicine, and but my job has become to make medicine, and I reformulate people's medicine for them, and that's how I learned how THC and CBD works. But going back to how it evolved from Vancouver, where we were the first cafe to allow people to smoke, and the police pretty well just left us alone. And then a lot of people started growing, and that wasn't really a problem. People that got too big got arrested and charged, but most people that were being reasonable weren't getting arrested. And then we got the MMAR.
Right.
And that really helped a lot of people. And that's when I was working with Michelle Rainey, helping people go through the 38 pages of documents so that they could grow their own.
Right. They changed that down to 11 pages now, right? It's gone from 30 pages to 11 pages now.
But it's still available. That's at least that's still there for us.
But we had to fight for that too, right? Like, let's, if you want to go back to that, like, this hasn't been an easy road for medical marijuana patients. So, like, even the first, how we were evolved into getting the MMAR was a court battle, and a court battle to get from an MMPR to get our grow rights back. And then, to get Owen Smith to go to the Supreme Court too, to get it so that patients could consume in any form. So it hasn't been an easy road to get us to where we are. And then we have this Cannabis Act that we've enrolled into that gives patients no rights to the absolute medicine that they need. And like you said, this morning I was reading as well that somebody was charged with was given time in jail for 85 grams. Like, that's
so how is cannabis legal?
Right.
Right.
Absolutely,
and then
right.
But if you have invested millions of dollars and you do decide to do something dodgy, like buy off the black market, like one company was caught in Saskatchewan, was it? And when the ACMPR, when they first started growing of the RCMP catching one company in Kelowna transferring cannabis to a plane.
Right. That was Tweed. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was, but
yeah, it was Tweed. Yeah.
These big companies are committing major crimes, not 85 grams. We're talking about hundreds of pounds, and they don't even get a slap on the wrist. And
never heard about it
some
again.
dude's got 85 grams. Who knows where he got it? Maybe he grew it himself.
Right? Absolutely.
Right? Maybe that was his medicine. We don't know what the situation is, but just because he didn't have a license, maybe his doctor refused to sign. Most doctors still refuse to sign.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, legalization has not made it any easier for patients to get signatures. What it's done is make a lot of people or doctors that were previously signing say no, because mine did. She signed us to begin with, then went to renew, and she said, no, you got legalization. No, we're not allowed to. And it was like, what? So that's
my specialist. My specialist said the same thing to me last year. He said, well, it's legal now. Why do you want me to sign this?
Yeah.
And it's the doctors are all being told, oh, it's legal. You don't have to sign anymore, which is now, we're still educating our doctors. Michelle Rainey was really big about educating your doctor.
Yeah, remember those medical packages that she used to have? She sent a bunch out to me in Lethbridge. We used to take them to the doctor's offices. And she had that great big package of all the pros for cannabis and medical, and she'd send them out if you wanted them. And we did. We took them out and dropped them off at doctor's offices in Lethbridge, and that was 2007, 2008. We were doing that. It was right before she passed away too, right? But yeah, that was something that we really needed to continue. We really need to continue. But I think that we do now. As patients, I know a lot of us, myself, you, and there's thousands of us, millions of us now that go in and talk to their doctors. Doctors, still their stance is there's no research. We have no dosing protocol. And I just think that's a cop-out.
Well, you have to understand, if you go back in history to when the medical history, doctors used to be, your barber or whoever in the community knew about herbs and how things worked, right? That alcohol sterilizes things.
Right.
We used to have herbalists. Well, when Big Pharma started making all these extracts, morphine and aspirin, they needed to sell it, and the way they needed to sell it was educating doctors, right? So the big pharmaceutical companies started educating doctors, and the way they educated doctors is they started medical schools. So all the medical schools are run by a pharmaceutical company. So the doctors only learn what they're given in school. So if your doctor is lazy and they just want to go and get that medical degree so they can make a bunch of money, they're just going to take what they learn in school and just apply that. And nowadays, when you go to the doctor, they don't ask you how you're feeling. They just take your blood, and if your blood is out of whack, they give you a pill. And if you have pain, you get a pill. Like you just got diagnosed with arthritis, right?
Well, that's what they're thinking. So I went this morning, and she's going to send me to a rheumatoid arthritis specialist. My blood's only showing normal. It showed my white count but not enough for it to be anything, just like a point out on anything of the markers that were out. So not enough that was alarming to actually throw pills at me, but she wants to throw 5 days of prednisone at me. And I told her, I don't do well on prednisone. It makes me bitchy, cranky, and I can't sleep. And she's trying to say, well, it's only a small dose. But I'm telling her, I don't do, had to do prednisone because of the colitis. I don't do well on prednisone. So I took the, prescription of the pharmacy, and it's sitting at the pharmacy. But I mean, the swelling and stuff that I've got is just ridiculous. So yeah, she's going to get me into a rheumatoid specialist, but where it goes from there, right?
But your doctor should have sat you down and said, okay, tell me about your diet. What are you eating? Maybe you're eating foods that you're allergic to. But your doctor doesn't know any of that. Yep. She doesn't know that potatoes and tomatoes can cause horrible swelling if people are sensitive to them. She doesn't learn that. She only just learns that if you have a swollen hand and it hurts you, then she's got to take blood, and then the blood will tell her what drugs to give you.
Yeah. Yep.
But only what drugs to give you, not nutritional advice, not herbal advice, only what drugs.
Right.
And so
Absolutely.
that's why your doctor refuses to prescribe cannabis, because these medical studies haven't been done, right, by the pharmaceutical companies, because cannabis is illegal, so they're not allowed to have it. So they haven't done the studies. So it's an easy cop-out for your doctor to say, well, they haven't done the studies, so I'm not going to go there.
Yeah.
Because it's not in the book.
Right.
If it ain't in the book, she's not interested.
That's, well, I mean, to be fair, she does listen to me when I tell her that I'm using, certain things, and, I tell her how it does help me. So to be fair, she actually prescribed acupuncture, which I thought would never happen, for my neck pain and stuff too, which another GP had never done before either. She's European, so I think she's a little more open to, things than, say, a Western doctor. I'm not sure if that makes a difference, but she is.
It makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference because it's a mindset. In Europe, there's still herbalists. There's still traditional medicines.
Yeah, she's Polish.
Right? We don't have any traditional. In North America, there is no traditional medicine. The traditional medicine, if you have a headache, you take an aspirin.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, and there's been no alternatives in Western medicine for us as far as herb wise goes, except for cannabis. I guess, I remember being, younger and, having a hangover, to be honest with you, and smoking a joint because that was more effective than taking an aspirin. Like, if that being said in my younger days, but I find that cannabis has been, more effective for me when it comes to certain things. Like other things, it diverts, more of my attention than it actually like masks, which I don't mind, because the fact of the matter is you don't want to be masking, because then you don't know what your limitations are. You don't want to be re-hurting an area because you've masked it so much that you can't feel anymore. And I think that's what our doctors have a tendency to make us feel like we should just mask it and keep going on, right?
Yeah, well, we'll just give you a drug and make the pain go away, and you just keep on working, keep at that job, bring those taxes in.
Right. And, internally those taxes pay that doctor and that pharmaceutical company. So it's all a great big wheel that, is fed by people being sick. And we've said it over and over again. There's no money in cures. There's money in treatment, but there's no money in cures. So they just want us to continue being sick.
Well, that was their mandate years and years ago, is that they wanted to have every person on earth taking some kind of medication.
Yeah. Yeah. Now
if we all stop to go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Sita.
Sorry, lost my train of thought.
Yeah, it's okay. But like you're right though. Like if we all keep taking medication and we all keep feeding it, then they're never going to go broke, and then they can keep control of us, I think is where you're going with that. But as you look over the statistics over the years too, as we get older, or even not, as we evolve, everything seems to be upping. We've got more people with diabetes. We've got more people with cancer. We've got more people with MS. We've got more people with all these debilitating diseases that 50 years ago weren't so prevalent. Even autism for children. Like there's a decline, I think, in some aspects on some disease, but then there's a raise in others. What do you, processed foods? Like because we talk about diet a lot. I know that's anytime I go to you for advice, it's like, what are you eating? That's one of the first things you ask people. So diet is a big thing for a lot of people. What do you see that being a big thing for a lot of people, especially with cancer? Cancer is a big thing, right?
What you put in your body several times on a daily basis is what dictates how your body is going to react. And I was diagnosed at 18 years old with high cholesterol, hypercholesteremia, which is extreme hypercholesterol, and it's supposedly very dangerous. And my doctor advised me immediately to stop eating all dairy, all eggs, no more cheese, no more butter. I'm German, right? No whipping cream. Well, I lasted a week, and I got really hangry. I couldn't handle it. I went back and I told him, I said, I'm only 18 years old, and if I have to stay on this diet for the rest of my life, I said, it's just not worth it. I'd rather die sooner and be happy and eat good food. And today I don't have any blockages or anything like that. But when your doctor tells you at 18 that you should only be eating stuff that even cockroaches won't touch, and I'm referring to margarine. I mean, if cockroaches won't eat it, why would they feed it to humans for a lifetime?
Right. Ugh, I know.
Right? So if you're putting margarine was developed to make turkeys fatter quicker, and they fed it to the turkeys and they died. So they thought, well, what are we going to do about it now? Oh, well, we'll use it as a butter substitute for humans.
Oh, well, that was a good idea.
So just the way that margarine is bad for you, all those oils that donuts and burgers and everything is fried in, those are all those bad oils that are just like margarine.
Right.
And cockroaches won't eat. Remember that cockroaches won't eat it. So when you're putting all this stuff in your body for 40, 50 years, of course you're going to have a problem.
Right.
You're going to get MS because your MS is a breakdown of your myelin sheath, which is what covers your nerves. It's a little covering that's over each and every one of your nerves. And it's made from animal fat. You can't make it from margarine. Your body makes it from animal fat. So if you deprive your body of animal fat, that myelin sheath is not going to be very good. right? You can't build a good body with crap.
Right. Absolutely not.
And you're building your body every day. You don't, and it's not just from the time you're a toddler to 13. You're building your body every single day. And if you don't feed it properly, something's going to break. I mean, if you're driving a car and you put water in the gas tank or dilute your gas with water for a certain period of time, it's not going to run anymore, right? You're going to foul up the engine.
Makes total sense.
So,
and I think that, and they've been feeding us so many oversaturated fats for so many years that most people don't even realize that they're not even healthy. They feel good, so they don't feel that there's anything wrong.
Well, that and sugars too. So between the fat and the sugar, that's what, and all the convenience foods that people eat. People don't even realize that they're convenience foods anymore. Grab a can of beans. You're eating healthy with the beans, but the can has coatings in it that are bad for you. Mm-hmm. Right? We're getting all these breast lumps. All these women going for breast exams, and they're finding breast lumps. Well, those lumps are caused by things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we've been using canned foods for since the Second World War. That was the way, for preserving food. So, and now we're finding 50 years later, this is the outcome from it. But, it's sad that you have to wait 50 years, though, to find out that you're going to kill off a whole generation because they use cans.
Well, the cans 50 years ago, the problem with them was lead. The cans of today are lined with a plastic, and that gives off hormone-like gases. That if you eat, if you have the occasional can, it's not a big deal. But if you eat, 2-3 cans of beans a week, because you're trying to be healthy, you're ingesting a lot of these hormone disruptors.
Right, and that's not something people really know about.
No, not really. The can looks nice. When you dump a can of beans and it's all white inside, it looks all nice and clean.
Yeah, you figure it's sterile. Yeah, that's interesting because that's something that I wasn't aware of. So thank you, because that's, like I said, it's something that most people don't realize when they're opening a can. So you suggest using dried beans rather than a canned bean. Of course you have to soak it. It's a little more work for you, but it's healthier for you then.
Well, for $100, you can get a new little machine, or not little. You can get this thing called an Instant Pot, and you can actually make beans in an hour. You don't have to soak them. Soaking them is better for you, but if you don't have the time, you don't really have to soak them. In the Instant Pot, and you have beans in an hour. There are no excuses.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
Take
that's something I've been
to the
watching.
store and even that's. I've bought about 8 of them and given them away. Well, they work so well.
Well, that's great because like I said, I've been watching on Facebook. People are posting all their foods that they're making in these Instapots. I think I maybe should get one of those things because, for convenience, we were always wanting time savers, right? And that's why we all seem to go to the fast food rather than actually doing it ourselves at home. If there's a tool that you can use at home that cuts down your cook time, I think I need one too.
Oh, definitely. I like I said, I've bought them for friends and family and given them for gifts, and I love mine. I use it 2-3 times a week, and stews, soups, beans, meatballs.
Excellent.
You name it, pulled pork, pork ribs, everything goes in there. It's really amazing.
Well, that's awesome.
And even though I'm a health food. Okay, go ahead.
And then we'll come back and talk. Yeah, we'll take a quick break. We'll come back, talk more about that, and then we're going to get into more about the RSOs and stuff, and some of the products that you've worked with over the last 2 decades with patients. I'm going to thank my sponsors, who are 12 High Chicks Magazine, Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society, BUM, Maritimers United for Medical Marijuana, and the Haley Rose Foundation. We'll be right back after a song, Doesn't Make Sense, by the Killing Time Band. Right back.
Hey, this is Cheech.
And this is Chong.
And you're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
What is it?
Lifestyle Radio. Say it one more time.
420 radio?
Ooh.
Please hang up and try again.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
Wednesday is an action-packed day here at 420radio.ca. At noon Eastern, we get things started with Cannabis and Coffee with Tamarijuana. Then at 3 p.m., the doctor is in. We can catch the Higher Estate with Dr. Ira Price. Finish up the evening at 8 p.m. with the award-winning Pace Radio Show with myself, Al Graham, and my rotating joint host. So don't forget to tune in on Wednesdays, when we can catch these live shows and their guests only here at 420radio.ca.
It's time for a change, to rethink things our way. Gotta know by now that this ain't working. Gotta rip it on down and start again. You know it doesn't make sense.
right, we're back with Sita. I'd like to take a minute and shout out to the Royal Kush Band and Jim Melvin. At the beginning of my show, you may have noticed that we've got a new intro, so big shout out to them. And over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be pushing more of their music on my Facebook page, so stay tuned for that. So before we're talking a little bit about, diet and how that kind of, goes hand in hand with a lot of our afflictions that we deal with. And I hate to use the word patient sometimes because the fact that it's not, some of us have invisible, disabilities that we try, to kind of just keep going on with our days. But when it comes to cancer, sometimes we're given advice by our doctors and we're given advice by consultants and other people and dietitians. But I'd like to talk a little bit to Sita about what the protocol is when we find out or somebody reaches out to us or our community about cancers. And my best advice usually goes along with diet and RSO. How about you, Sita? What is your best advice?
Diet and cannabinoids, RSO. A lot of people are doing RSO, but recently some of the studies or some of the patient stories I've heard that sometimes people don't have access to a gram a day, and even with small amounts, there have been turnarounds. People have been getting better. So that was the first thing I want to say, is that you don't need this scary 1 gram a day. It works better. The more you have, the better it is for you. But that was the first thing I wanted to say about the RSO.
Right,
and,
because that's the protocol before, right? We always mention that. That's like been the kind of rule of law. It's like start with a grain of rice and then work yourself up to a gram a day for 30 days. But now you're finding that it's different, right?
Well, I'm finding that people get better even if they don't have access to a gram a day. What I have found more importantly is that they don't stop taking it after they've been considered, you're now cancer-free or you're now better, especially if they've done chemo or radiation, and then they start taking cannabis and they find, they don't have any cancer cells. Like, now I don't have to do this anymore. I find that almost everyone that starts again because their cancer reappears. So rather than taking a lot, like a big high dose, if I'm talking about financial considerations, that it's more important to sustain it over a long period of time.
Right.
If you need to make a choice.
Right, because like I explained to some people too, the cost is because of the high quality of cannabis that's being used, and it's not leaf, it's bud that's being used, and it has to process, and and it sounds exuberantly high, but it's hard to maintain that. But in hindsight, like, you can't put a price. I mean, chemotherapy is not free either. You know what I'm saying? Like, any medicine you're taking when it comes to this stuff.
We're in Canada. Yeah, just because we're in Canada, we're spoiled. If we live, 100 kilometers south of here, we'd be having to pay for our chemo, right?
Right.
So,
absolutely.
But that's the other barrier I find, is that in Canada, chemo and radiation and surgery are free, and cannabis medicine you need to pay for. But it's very easy to explain why it's so expensive. Because if you take a median price of $10 a gram, it takes about 8 to 10 grams of flower to make 1 gram of oil.
Right.
So there's $80 to $100 right there if you're paying $10 a gram. Then it takes 10 liters of alcohol, and then it takes about 9 hours to do an extraction. So when you take all those things together, and when it's done properly, it takes time and effort and product, and that's why it's so expensive.
Right. And I mean, I tell my patients, I can teach you how to make it. Like, that's what I say to a lot of people too. Like, if you're able to grow your own and we can teach you how to make it, then that's even better for you, right?
Absolutely. If they can grow their own. And I found that patients who learn to grow the plant have a much better appreciation for the medicine.
And that's what we'd like everybody to get. I mean, there are patients out there, like, granted, that don't have access to the ability to grow. Either they're not able to, they have barriers. There's always barriers as to reasons why people can't grow for themselves. But, that's the first thing I try and, can you grow for yourself? Like, you don't have to have like 5 or even 100 plants. You don't have to have that big of a grow to help yourself. And that's what I try to explain to people too. I mean, it's always nice, more the better, but you don't have to have a lot to help yourself.
No, and most conditions besides cancer require very low doses a day, right? When you consider that one gram of cannabis has about 300 grams of 200 to 300 grams of THC in it.
Right.
Right? So that's quite a dose if you're looking at a daily dose. Right? 200 milligrams of THC. That's quite a bit, right?
Right.
Lots of patients take 5 milligram caps, 10 milligram caps.
Now, before we talked we talked about juicing, and that's another option for people to do as well. There's so many elements of how to use this plant, from tip to root, pretty much, right? So juicing is another thing we had talked about in the past too. What's your recommendation for that?
Juicing is fantastic, especially if you are growing or you know someone that's growing, because we found that juicing the shade leaves, the leaves that you take off about 3 weeks into flowering so that the buds can get more light, those are optimal for juicing. And the juice freezes very, very well. And it lasts, you can freeze the juice and it can last a year in the freezer. What I do is I make the juice and I freeze it right away. And as soon as the cubes, I freeze it in ice cube trays. And as soon as the cubes are frozen, I transfer it into a food sealer bag and I remove all the air. And in that state, they'll last, and I stack them up 14, 28 in a bag. And then I just stack them up and I take 2 a day. And absolutely phenomenal for things like arthritis. My knees started hurting me about 6 years ago, and I did a 3-month juice cube every day. My knees haven't hurt since.
No, you mix the cubes in with some like apple juice or something. You don't just drink it. Or do you drink it straight up, or how do you mix it?
Well, I have done it. I have drank it straight up just to try it, and I drank 4 ounces one day, and that's a lot of chlorophyll, and my tummy didn't feel so good after. But that's right. The recommended dose would be 2 ounces and dilute it in. I found that apple juice is the best at taking out that greenish taste. I've tried mixing with orange juices. Just orange juice has a bitter note that doesn't go well with cannabis, but the apple juice just totally, and it doesn't even have to be freshly made apple juice. It can just be regular apple juice.
Right. And this is to utilize the whole plant, because a lot of times in the past I've heard that the shade leaf, just throw it in the garbage. It's not worth anything. It's pointless. And that was, because it was just kind of hanging there, right? And now we're finding that every part of that plant is useful. Yeah.
You can even, the leaves that you juice need to be green and juicy. Right? You can't have any dried up stuff. And fresh, yes. So usually the way we do it is we pick them all into a cooler, and then they're washed in the cooler with apple cider vinegar and rinsed off. And then I just pick them out and juice them. It doesn't matter if there's a little water. Actually helps because the juice is very thick. Right. It's like, have you ever had wheatgrass juice?
Yes. Yeah, I have. So it's similar to that then.
Yeah, but it's thicker than wheatgrass juice for some reason. I don't quite understand it.
Would that be maybe from the stalk, because the stalks are thicker, maybe, than wheatgrass? Because there's no stalk in
No, it's
wheatgrass,
just the
right? So maybe it's
liquid. The
stalk?
liquid. Yeah, I don't know. The liquid seems to be not so watery as wheatgrass, and I think it's just.
interesting.
I think maybe because the leaves are stronger, like those big, juicy, really thick, juicy fan leaves.
More fibrous.
They
maybe
make.
Yeah.
And maybe
do
a
you
little
juice the
fiber
bud
getting
too?
in there.
Yeah, like are you juicing buds? Or just the leaf?
I think that's a total waste. That's a total waste.
Okay.
If you want to use fresh bud, put the whole bud in a smoothie with some fruit.
Oh, okay. So just zip it in there. Okay. See, and that's the thing.
Yeah,
there's been evolution with juicing too, because before it was one bud and a couple leaves. I think is what we started out with, kind of thinking, and now we've no bud. So that's good, because I mean, again,
that's such a waste, Tamara, because the juice is water based, right? And the THC is oil based. So what you're taking is bud, you're just squeezing out the water. And all the oil base is going to stick inside the bud. So take the whole bud and take your leaf juice and take your bud and make a smoothie with it.
Oh, interesting. See, everybody learned something new again today. I love it. See, it's always good to talk to you, Sita, because I do. Every time I talk to you, I learn something new, because it's totally evolved from what we're, changing with people using it differently, and other testimonies from other patients and what they're doing. And that's, to be fair, that's how we all learn. It's not like somebody sat down and started doing research and writing this stuff down in a book and throw it all out. It's listening to other patients and their testimonies as to what's helping them.
Well, because a lot of that information was all there 100 years ago. All that information was available. 80% of medicines that you could buy in a pharmacy in 1920 contained cannabis. 80% had some form of cannabis in it. When it was made illegal in the late 20s, that all disappeared. And pharmaceutical medicines reappeared in their place. And they didn't work nearly as well as the cannabis, which had already been proven for, thousands of years. So in addition to taking all that medicine off the shelves, all the information most of the information was gotten rid of as well. And as we know, herbal medicine, as you learn from, like you're learning from me, is herbal medicine is a tradition that's passed on. It's not something we read. Yes, people write it down in books, but most of the knowledge is passed down from one person to another.
Yeah, and that's the truth, right? It doesn't seem to be passed on any other way, and and we have to be grateful for the fact that patients do talk, and that we've got this community that we've got that have come together, even with this gong show of legalization. I feel the community has kind of had a little bit of a hiccup, but we're still there. We're still trying to advocate for patients and trying to keep things, for patients' access. Because let's face it, right now with illegal stores, there's no access to stuff that patients need. The medicine's not up to par. It's got no shelf life on it. We all know that there's a shelf life on cannabis. It's a plant-based medicine. Of course, it's going to expire. And the stuff's dry. Anything that I've seen online looks like it's been sitting in a jar that it shouldn't be sitting in for 10 months when it should have been in the garbage.
Plastic jar, I know. Well, cannabinoids off-gas terpenes. And terpenes are volatile compounds that can... Have you ever dropped like some tea tree on some plastic and it's dulled the plastic?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay, so that the terpenes in the cannabis is doing that to the plastic in the jars that's being stored in. Don't even get me started on this. I could go on for days.
Exactly. But I mean, try and explain that as a patient. Like, you know what I mean? They're throwing the patients under the bus. They tell us, sorry, we don't even need to sign your paperwork anymore. You're caught with anything, you're going to go to jail, like with anything over the 30-gram limit, as we've seen this morning. Like, this is like almost my head wants to explode after that one. I don't see how any of this is helping patients or people. I'm not going to call patients, people that use cannabis for medical purposes or for, therapeutic medical purposes or however you want to label it. I hate labels, but, in aspect, that's what we're looking at is people that want to, use alternative ways of being healthy and being caboodled by it still, because let's face it, edibles when they come out in the market are going to be at such a low rate that you'll be obese before you're going to get anything beneficial out of it, right? Look at the levels of extract.
They have all these rules about how they can, what they can taste like, what they're packaged in. And like you said, the dosages are going to be laughable. Same for topical.
I know.
I read
like for all
that. Somebody asked me to double check their math because a paper that they showed me, I don't know what stage it's in, but the proposal was that there would be 1 gram of THC in 100 kilograms of product. The dilution.
What's that going to do for anybody? Like, I don't even see how that would be beneficial in any way, shape, or form.
Well, no, it's just satisfying the market.
Yeah, like it seems like a placebo being thrown at you, because it's not going to be enough to actually help you. So it's actually not giving the plant any credibility.
No, it's just going to be enough to take money. It's just going to be enough to take money out of your pocket.
Yeah. Like you said, corporate takeover, right? Oh, it's so disheartening, really, when it comes down to it, especially when you see how many people that are without access still to this day.
Well, not only are people without access, the people that were helping a great lot of these people and have knowledge have no way of getting into the industry. They're barred in so many ways. They're barred financially. They're barred if they've ever had any association. Say you had a nice edibles company pre-legalization. You can't even make that company legal if you were selling product pre-legalization because you were a criminal. So now you can't have it's all about the money. So nobody will invest in you because you were in this before it was legal. Yeah.
I'm feeling you on that one. I think many people across the, we were all hoping for better. We were hoping for at least a foot in, but there's so many barriers. And that's the biggest, I think, for many patients or people that, like I said, that really had good product that really could offer things to people to give them access, and now their hands are tied.
Well, I'm hoping that within the next 3, 4, maybe 5 years, things will change and the government will see that their knee-jerk reactions is really not making things any better, and that eventually things will, once the government realizes, or the big cheeses realize that this is really not very harmful, that they will let up on the regulations somewhat.
Yeah, I've said that too. But once the sky hasn't fallen, but then you've got Origami wanting, to shut down all the illegal pot stores, and you got Doug Ford screaming about shutting down all the illegal pot stores, and they're not illegal pot stores. They're medically, based for access for people that use it for other reasons. You know what I mean? Like I don't think that's right.
Well, let me just do a little comparison with alcohol. When we came here in the late 60s, my parents were enjoying a beer out in their backyard, in our backyard. And the neighbors over the fence came and said, it's illegal to drink alcohol in an open area. This was in Ontario in the late 60s. You weren't allowed to drink alcohol outside, even in your own backyard.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I remember that.
Nowadays, I go to the farmer's market, and I can get pissed at the farmer's market before 11 o'clock in the morning because they're selling spirits at the farmer's market.
Yeah,
right?
I know.
So, I mean, this is from the late 60s to now, but what the change it's brought is we have a lot of craft breweries, we have wine tastings, we have vineyards where you can go and have a meal and buy wine. That all wasn't available in the late 60s. So I'm just hoping that it's not going to take us 50 years with cannabis. I'm hoping it's going to take 5 for somebody's brain to come to reason and realize that by opening it up, the taxes that can be collected. I mean, if you're selling at farmers market, you got to charge taxes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then you're paying for your booth, and that's all taxable. And
exactly. And I'd much rather go to the farmers market and try a few kinds of cannabis than try somebody's nasty gin or vodka that they brewed here over in the East End.
Right. That's a good way of looking at it too. And you're right. I mean, things will evolve eventually. It's just the time. I think it's because we've been involved for so long. And I mean, you longer than I, that it just gets frustrating day after day. You just keep hoping things are going to change.
Well, I think I smoked my first joint in about 1970. So I've been involved for a long time.
Well, I was going to say that's the year I was born, Sita. So yes, it's been a long time. Oh my goodness, that's great. Well, we're just about time to wrap up here, and I'd like to again thank Jim Melvin for my new intro, and a shout out to the Royal Kush Band. And, if you want to take a listen to them, they are available on YouTube. I'd also like to shout out to Sita, and thanks very much for coming on my show, and for Canamed, because, it's a great product. Anybody who watches my page, Icy Pot, is made by Canamed, which is Sita's company. So, you can always reach out to either one of us if you need any of that, because it's one of the best topicals I've ever had in my life. And
thank you, Tamara.
That's all I'm going to say about that. Like I told you, it's just been crazy. But with this crap that I've been going through, it's just been, it's been really helpful. So I can't speak highly enough about you. And again, thank you, because there's so many things that you've done over the years. We didn't even get into the pollinator and the aromatherapy. Like I said, I could keep you on for the next 2 hours just talking about the things that you've done over the last 20 years. So we'll have to have you on the show again.
Well, thank you, Tamara, and thank you for doing the show and taking the time every week. And I know it takes a lot of prep work and everything, and for you to take the time to do it and talk to people like me and spread the word. Anytime that you need help or information on how to juice or something like that, I'm more than happy to help.
You always are, and I really appreciate that. So again, shout out to Sita. I'd like to thank my sponsors, who are 12 High Chicks Magazine, Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partner, Maritime United for Medical Marijuana, and the Haley Rose Foundation. Also to my producer, Al Rapp, who runs my show from the back behind his baggie, and again to the Royal Kush Band for my new intro. So you'll have to listen to that again if you didn't hear it the first time. Okay, well, we got a couple minutes, Sita. Is there anything else you'd like to shout out to for yourself?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
I'm good. Okay, well, we'll just wrap it up then. I'm not sure who I've got booked for next week, and I'm going to have to look because I've been kind of in and out of consciousness for a while, but we'll be back next Wednesday at regular time, which is 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Y'all have a great week, and we'll talk to you then. Bye.
I want to talk about news, don't want the drama. From no pretentious media Madonna. I found me a great ganja mama. Cannabis and coffee with Tamarijuana.
So what are you doing? Nothing? Why not?
Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of their associated organizations or Lifestyle Radio.